Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Kingdom and its Stories. We have the privilege of having Matt Mason with us today. And we've just kind of discovered from a conversation before the broadcast began that we were in the same church, but not necessarily recognizing each other. He was much younger than I am, of course, as you can see if you're watching this broadcast uh, uh, by video. But Matt, we're delighted to have you with us, and thank you for being here today to share your story with us. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Bob.
I would like our listeners to get acquainted with you, so you know the routine of the elevator speech. We've got about 40 floors to go to ride up in the elevator. Tell us your story. Who is Matt Mason?
Uh, well, I'm a Phoenix native, born and raised here, and born into a Christian home, raised on Christian values, and raised in the church, like you mentioned. I think I was a little kid, probably running around when you were there, um, and came to know Jesus at an early age, and then went on, through school, went to ASU, Arizona State University, and uh, graduated there, moved to Washington, D.C. for a few years and worked on the Capitol Hill, and then went to law school, got married, moved back to Phoenix to raise a family. And we've been here now for 18 years.
So you're a lawyer.
I
You
am,
said you went to
yes.
law school. Okay, what kind of law do you practice?
I practice corporate and real estate law. I'm at a small company. We buy medical office buildings all over the country. And so I handle all of our legal issues, and then I'm also on the business side, so I'm a partner in that company.
Okay, well, we're delighted to have you with us. And do you have a family?
Yes, I have my wife and three kids. My oldest is 18. We have a 15-year-old daughter, and then a 13-year-old boy. And then we're recently adopting a fourth child, and he's 10 years old.
Now
And
that's the reason you're here,
it is.
is to help us to understand why you would adopt a 10-year-old. You already have three kids. I'm assuming they're good kids.
They're great
I'm
kids.
assuming you like them. You love them as a dad, and you have a functioning family, functioning well. Um, and being an adoptive parent myself, I know that bringing somebody else into your family is on a this is my kid basis um, is can be traumatic. And so, what was it? Give us the story. Tell us the story of why you're considering this adoption.
Um, about 7 years ago now, our family and another family of believers, we decided we were going to adopt another family for Christmas. So we thought we'd bring them Christmas gifts and do the thing. And um, we got to meet Petronil and Guy. Petronil was an immigrant from Rwanda, and and Guy was born here in the States, but they had no family here in the U.S. And Petronil was a very strong woman. She spoke three languages and was working hard as a nurse assistant. Um, but she had just been diagnosed with late stage cancer. And
Mm.
when we met her, she was on the couch of it after having had a big surgery with a little 4-year-old boy, and she was having to work full time at the same time. So we brought her Christmas, but then we stayed in touch and we became friends. And as we became friends, she began to trust us more, and we offered to host Guy, her little 4-year-old boy, whenever she had chemotherapy.
You see, he's 10 now.
And he's 10 now, yes.
So there's 6 years ago.
So the chemotherapy went on. Petronil she outlived the doctor, what the doctors thought she would, by the grace of God, and because it was really good for Guy to get to know his mother, and so she would go to chemo every 3 weeks, and he would come live with us for about 4 days, and this went on for about 5 years or so.
So Guy would come and stay with you
Yeah, he would
for
come.
most of the week while his
Yeah.
mom was undergoing treatment,
Yes.
chemotherapy. Okay.
Yeah, and that was hard on Guy. It wasn't. It was our house
Which,
was
the separation or the chemotherapy or both?
all of it. I mean, it was all hard on Guy and Petronile, and frankly us. The uncertainty of it, the constant change for Guy. He'd be with us for a week, and then with his mom for a few weeks, and then back and forth. And it was also a time where he watched his mother slowly, uh, frankly,
Decline.
decline and lose her health, and he didn't have anyone else in the world. So there was a lot of uncertainty for him too, and a lot for him to have to overcome. Both he and Petronil. So, um, so this led us up to last April, and her health really took a turn for the worse at that time. And he moved with, I guess it was March. He moved in with us full time at that
This is
point
last year.
of last year. Yes.
Okay.
and
So it's been about a year now.
it's been about a year.
Okay.
And Petronil passed away in May, um,
Of
and
last year.
of last year, and we walked with Guy through that process. By God's grace, we were able to get Petronil's sister out here for the funeral, and that was really important to
She
have.
was from Rwanda.
She's from Rwanda, and she was able to come all the way out from Rwanda,
Okay.
and then she had to head back. She has family back there, so Guy stayed with us. During that time that we'd been caring for Guy and becoming friends with Petronil, she asked my wife and I, Catherine, and I, to be Guy's guardians in the event something happened to her, and we accepted. So that was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and so then after she passed, we went through the process of approaching Guy's father. He lives in Rwanda full time, and getting his permission, and that process was just completed a couple months ago, and then the next step will be the final adoption.
Okay. So he wasn't open to taking Guy back in Rwanda.
Well, like I said, Guy was born here. He's
Okay.
he's
Not Rwandan, huh?
he's not
Culturally.
Rwandan. No, yeah,
Yeah.
he speaks
Yeah.
English. He doesn't speak Rwandan, and
Right.
he it'd be a pretty difficult change, I think, for Guy. And the other thing is that he's only met his dad one time, and his dad has another family. So there's a lot going on there, and really, it seemed the best thing for Guy was to stay here and stay at his school with his friends and in his community, which happened to be the same school and community that my family is in. So yeah.
So, 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 how about your kids?
How about yeah? How
Yeah,
about
and
my kids?
how did they, how are they uh, approaching this potential adoption?
Um, so maybe a year into knowing Guy and Petronil, um, and by the way, this all sounds like well, we just you know a 6 or 7 year process is a long process, and it's a
Hmm.
lot of turmoil to live through as someone's facing serious health issues. And it sounds like it all just happened, but really this was just a day in, day out thing of saying yes and to the Lord on this. And so a year in, we went to my kids because,
Well, saying yes to what?
well,
Uh,
saying yes to the Lord, saying yes to having Guy come, saying yes to, he had pretty serious behavioral issues at school, and his mom couldn't be there, so we were there. Um,
okay.
walking out of board meetings because he had pulled the fire alarm, like things like that. Where you're really faced with the question of what's most important here. What has Jesus called me to? I'm looking at my career and I'm looking at a little boy who's struggling and I'm being called to his aid, and having to put one aside for the other. Anyhow, so going back to the kids' decision though, when Petronil came to us and asked us to serve as guardians, we didn't feel like we could just make that decision unilaterally, Catherine and I. So we went to the kids and said, "Hey, we've been asked to do this. It would fundamentally change our family, whether we are just his guardians or whether we adopt. He would live with us permanently for a long time. Um, and we need you to be on board. And if you're not, it is okay. It's okay for you to not be on board. Our family is precious and it needs to be protected." And so we gave them all a little anonymous ballot, and I put out a jar and said, "Take your time. Everybody vote yes or no." And and they all voted, and it took about a month to get all the votes in, but they all voted yes. So
Without coercion.
no coercion. No,
Yeah,
I
okay.
didn't. We didn't. No, this needs to be done by
A
everyone's
genuine,
a
a
genuine
genuine,
desire to
yeah.
serve. But the kids knew when they signed up, he had been living with us a decent amount and they knew what his behavior was
All
and they knew
right.
the challenges he faced. And not to mention the cultural differences of being a first immigration or first year or first generation immigrant. And obviously he has of African descent, so he's a different color race than us. And it's just a lot of things to face there. But the kids were up for it. They 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 wanted to serve the Lord in this way. So again, we've gone to them now that we're His guardians, and we've said we're presenting this to you again, not just to see if we want Guy to live here as His guardians, but to see if we want
Okay,
to
but and
adopt.
before you tell us the next step in that story, I need to
Sure.
do a station break. Uh, those of you who are listening and are watching, you're listening and watching the Kingdom and its Stories. And in this broadcast, our desire is to use the testimonies of ordinary people like you listeners to challenge you to think further, more deeply through the testimony of those people we interview, how you might better be Jesus' hands and feet in your context. And it doesn't mean to copy um, the life or the stories that you're hearing on the broadcast, but it means, okay, Lord, open my heart to hear through the testimony of Matt and others what you might be saying to me about how I can better represent you in my context. So, Matt, we're delighted to have you. You were in the middle of the story and I interrupted. So continue.
Yeah, yeah. So the we went to the kids, said, "Look, we're his guardians now. His mom has passed." We all walked with him through the funeral process and burying his mom. Um, and she was a believer, so we're grateful that we can talk to him about what her life is like in heaven. Um, but we went to the kids and said, "Okay, now we need to decide whether we want Guy as a Mason, to give him our last name, and whether he wants our last name." Um, you know, right now he certainly does. He asks pretty frequently, "When will I be a Mason?" Um,
Mm,
and
that's wonderful.
it's sweet, very sweet.
Yeah.
Uh, and each of the kids had to kind of think through the risks, um, knowing that this was not a certain story, that they could be, if they say yes to Guy being their brother, there we don't know the outcome of that in the future, and it will change the family dynamic. I mean, for my third, he was the youngest, and he's no longer the youngest. Um, so they had to say yes or no, and again, we wanted them to give them another opportunity. Um, and each has come to us and said, "Mom and Dad, we think the best thing to do is to adopt him. He needs a family." Um,
Mm,
and we're the closest thing he has to a family. We've known him since he's 4, and he's 10 now.
yeah.
Um, so that's what we're on our way to do. We just got to process the paperwork at this point, but that's where we're at. Uh, and in dealing with that risk, I think just a couple thoughts on how we've approached that, Catherine and I, because Catherine rightly has been very um, she's been conservative on saying, yeah, let's bring another person into our family.
Hmm.
Um, Taking it day by day, just like the Lord taught us to pray, give us this day our daily bread. Um, Trying to not think so far into the future, but to just look at the grace He's given us for today, and to know that the grace is sufficient for today to love Guy and love our family and to serve. And that's been something we've had to remind each other of when we get overwhelmed with this thought and this process, because it hasn't been easy. It has been hard. Um, it,
Can I, I don't want to ask an inappropriate question, but those who are listening are going to wonder when you say it's been hard, what what does that mean? Now, there are
sure.
many years here, but uh, can you just kind of help us to understand what that means?
Um, well, I think anyone who has walked with someone through the process of dying knows that is hard in and of
Yes,
itself.
right.
And we walked with Petronille through that time in her life. Um,
And that wasn't easy.
that's not
I
easy.
know that's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, whether it's just the physical trips to the hospital and trying to help make medical decisions, or being there for her emotionally, and yeah, right. So that's not easy. And then having this little boy who's watching his world fall apart, not having
Hmm.
any other family. Um, he's had all kinds of behavioral issues. y- you know, Turning teachers' desks over in the middle of class, running around and screaming. Not just disciplinary either. He's had his own kind of stress-induced medical issues that we've had to deal with. Um, Behaving like maybe a 5-year-old would behave when you're actually 9.
Hmm.
Um, so, and cleaning up very physical and um, and unpleasant messes that he might make, um, to serving him in every way we can.
And your kids know this
Oh,
because they've seen it. I mean,
the kids have
they're
to live it.
yeah, right.
Sometimes they might be embarrassed. Sometimes they have a hard time explaining what's happening. Um, it's people know that it's unusual just by the look of us as we walk into, a
Yeah, it's obvious.
social
Yeah,
function. And
right.
um, and so the kids have to explain that. And anyhow, it's hard for Guy. It's hard. I can't even
Of
imagine
course.
losing my mother and having my only parent really that I've ever known at a young age. Um, I've often thought I know I'm a big C.S. Lewis fan, and I know he lost his mother when he's young. And
Right.
I've dreamed that, well, maybe Guy could go on to be some kind of huge impact for the Lord. And C.S. Lewis himself wrote in the Chronicles of Narnia, the representation of Aslan and Jesus, and one of the characters asked, "Well, is Aslan safe?" And he said, someone else says, "No, he is not
He
safe.
is not safe.
The lion is not safe, but he is good."
Mm.
And my family has seen that. This has not been a safe process. It has been a difficult, hard process, but it has been good. It has taught my children what's really important, and it's continually teaches me what's really important.
Wow. Matt, I'm really touched. Um, and when we adopted a child from another culture, um, we didn't know how tough it could be. And now we're so glad we did.
Hmm.
But he's 50 years old now. And we were different in that we really didn't understand the challenges. And I'm listening to you, and I'm hearing you say that not only you, your wife, who's been conservative on this issue, and your children, you know the challenges. And you have gone before the Lord and said, Lord, we're willing. And that is a huge inspiration to me, Matt. And you know, may God bless you and your family. And I pray that Guy could could be that person that you imagine he might be through his life, and be a tremendous witness to God's goodness, to God's grace. He's not safe, but he's good.
He is good.
So, what would you say as you uh, imagine what those who are listening to this broadcast might be thinking? What would your challenge to them be?
Um, you know, Oftentimes when we think of doing something for the Lord, we'd think of something grand, making some big financial contribution somewhere, or, you know, giving everything away and going into the mission field. Um, for my family, it's been small little choices each day, um, to put his will before my own, and um, to not let anything come before his will. Um, so learning, just trusting the Lord with that, trusting the Lord with yes. Yes, we'll pick him up from school. Yes, uh, we'll we'll come bring you dinner. Um, yes, we'll meet you at the hospital. Yes, you can stay the night. Saying yes to the Lord in small ways, to the least of these, right? Everything you do for the least of these, you do unto me. If I can just say yes one day at a time, that's that gets me there.
Hmm.
That's all he needs from me, and that's all I need from him. More importantly, like I said, the grace for today, and that's all.
Matt, thank you so much. And I want to just challenge our listeners, together with you and your family and myself, to pray for Guy
Mm.
and to pray for God's special anointing on this young guy, so that he can become everything God intended for him when he created him. Matt Mason, God bless you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.